I deliberately chose non-controversial examples today to help you get a grasp of the metaphysics without getting bogged down in questions of justice or pushing my own views.
Philosophy tube. That's a lot of views. Where do I even start with this? I suppose with what is a social construct. I think that's sort of where philosophy tube starts as well. Now, I'm not even sure if the concept even exists, to be honest. Like, even philosophy tube says,
If you ask 3 philosophers how social constructs work, you'll get 4 theories.
so one even questions what the utility of this phrase even is. I suppose this individual here is just using it to mean things they don't like. I think it's pretty obvious given Philosophy Tube's recent transition that this video is trying to justify ending abstractions based on sex. I think this whole video is based around a Mumsnet post actually. But again, that raises the question, if women don't exist, then what is young Abigail spending time, energy, money, and of course, all sorts of other things to transition into being here? Small observation. It's very strange that women sort of being sexually aware or, sexual is considered sort of oppressive. I'm reminded of the feminist campaign against pit girls at Formula 1 a while back, but when it's a trans person like Abigail here, it's considered almost empowering, make of that what you will. I suppose it's an action against normalcy, I suppose. I wish that bodysuit was a social construct, bloody hell, that's a bloody war crime. Anyway, getting back on track, Philosophy Tube here basically admits the goal of this video.
In offering my theory of social categories, the aim is to reveal the cogs and belts and arrangements of parts in machines that often are oppressive.
Obviously, as Philosophy Tube has XY chromosomes, they cannot physically be a woman, so the goal here is to say that every societal distinction is a social construct and should be dismantled, ergo we don't have to follow them and we can just do what we want. It's actually really good propaganda, but here's the problem with that though. When these sort of natural distinctions are dismantled, everyone else has to go along with it and lose these natural things, which makes people fucking miserable. I mean, I'm not a woman, but women seem to not want to lose their women-only spaces. They don't want guys walking around with their dicks out in their bathrooms. There is a serious distinction in the world between different people. I think Philosophy Tube brings up the protest against Judith Butler later on, which is really about that. Women really do care about their femininity, and generally speaking don't want it dismantled. I'm reminded of Burke's arguments about these distinctions being the answers found to enduring questions, answers we have found to stuff over time, and deconstructing that stuff really is quite a dangerous thing if you think about it. Okay, so then Philosophy Tube uses the distinction of an alternative universe, and says that on this imaginary Earth, there is a distinction between small and tall people called Schmite, similar to race and gender here on Earth. Basically, the goal of this is to say that any distinction is basically arbitrary.
Suppose we took a whole city of people here on Earth 1 and we erased their memories so they didn't know about sex and race. Would they reinvent those categories when they saw their environment?
Yes. Even aside from the fact that tallness is again a characteristic that affects life outcomes on planet Earth, I suppose if we got rid of the category woman, we would have to make up a new category called like boob haver or something, because again, even on a biological level, these distinctions are basically, number 1, important to continuing humanity, and number 2, natural and unavoidable. If you don't think that motherhood is a natural phenomenon, then I suggest you go watch a David Attenborough documentary, or go watch What Birds or some shit do in the wild. I'm going to get loads of comments saying I promote the BBC now, fuck's sake. So then Abigail says that you can't measure coolness, which again you probably could. I imagine if you have observable good looks, you are socially good looking, you smell nice, I don't know, then these things would be characteristics that would confer coolness upon you. Again, it would probably be possible to quantify coolness, but I'm aware of my own shortcomings, so won't try to do so. I think Philosophy Tube brought up platypuses after this, who are mammals despite laying eggs. Again, platypuses are male and female, so then they talk about how you are treated by a mechanic after a car crash depending on what you say, which I suppose is true to an extent. Coming up towards the end of the video now, I think Philosophy Tube makes the biggest Freudian slip of the whole video. Basically, if homosexuality doesn't exist and is a social construct, then how could Abigail assign group rights to it?
But if you say to a gay person, hey, homosexuality, that's just a social construct, we might be like, whoa, what are you saying? Because the concept of gay rights is built on top of it. So it's worth remembering that we aren't really talking about baseball and platypuses. We're talking about people, and therefore questions of justice arise in how we should apply this metaphysics.
PhilosophyTube literally just said it's a social construct if I don't like it. So in conclusion, I tend to fall on the side of these societal abstractions like motherhood or fatherhood being biological adaptations that were necessary for the survival of mankind, and not just forced on the population through culture. I think the opposite is the case these days. It's not overly difficult to see what young Abigail here is trying to do, which is destroy anything of meaning. But in any case, this is quite good and effective propaganda for, destroying these categories because certain people don't like them. I mean, it's totally false, obviously. Your mother is your mother, and that can't be changed, and you're still going to be the same gender on the moon, but it's good propaganda nonetheless. There's been a lot of talk recently about a sort of woke minority. I think just by the language they are using, which is focused on a deconstruction rather than, say, the will of the people, that kind of shows that they are in the minority, which is why I made this video, and I will make more anti-leftist videos if people want. But, it's something to think about. Right, that'll do. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you soon.